When I started college as a freshman, I didn't know how to read. Now, that's not exactly true. I mean, I did know how to read. I went to kindergarten all the way up through senior year of high school, and so they did a pretty good job teaching me how to read. But I didn't really know how to read a college textbook. When I picked up a college textbook, I kind of approached it like I would a novel, right? What do you do with a novel? You pick it up and you're reading through it from the very first word all the way till the last word. And sometimes in those novels, you'll get like a secret or surprise ending that'll totally blow your mind, right? That is actually not the best way to read a college textbook, as I later found out. And so I want to spend a few minutes talking about how we can best strategize about how to read our own college textbook. There are ways that you can prioritize your reading that will help you be more effective and retain more information. So why don't we take a look real quick? Now, of course, our textbook is the OpenStax American Government text, and I want to ask you some questions and maybe get you thinking about how you might approach this text. So why don't we look at it together? The first thing I would do, now I got chapter 2 pulled up here. We're going to be looking at the Constitution. The first thing I would have you do is probably read the table of contents. If you look over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see a number of things that we're going to be reading about. The Articles of Confederation. I bet a lot of you don't know what that is, but don't worry, by the end of chapter 2, you're going to know all about that concept. And you're going to see we're looking at the development of the Constitution and some other things. That gives us just a very brief overview of the shape of the chapter, what we can expect. So start with that. Now, it's going to seem counterintuitive. You might think we're ready to dive into the introduction. I would say hold off a second and maybe let's instead go down to the summary, okay? Start at the summary. Why would we want to do that? Well, remember, anything in the summary is going to be really important. They're not going to put the unimportant details there. So what you can do here in the summary, you start by reading that. They're going to give you about a paragraph or two about the most important concepts that you're going to study throughout the textbook chapter. That's a signal to you as you're reading that these concepts might be very important for your learning. So I would say start at the end. Don't approach it like the novel. Start at the end, read the overview, and that is going to help frame your learning and give you some insight into what are going to be the most important topics that we're exploring throughout. All right, so you might also even look at the key terms. And if you look at the key terms here, you see things like Anti-Federalist, Articles of Confederation, bicameral legislature. You can get an idea of what this chapter is going to cover by looking at these key terms. You're always going to see those in bold as you go through and read the text. But this, again, is going to be a resource to you to help explain some new concepts and vocabulary that you've maybe never seen before. So again, we're signaling to ourselves this might be something worth paying attention to. Now, after that, I think we're probably ready to jump in and actually start reading the text. If you look, you're also going to be able to find review questions and critical thinking questions. Some students like to look at those as well. But when you're ready to dive in, I recommend signing into the OpenStax website if you're using the web version, because you can highlight, you can make notes, just as you see me doing here, and you can always go back to those and refer to those, which might be especially helpful when it comes time to submit your writing assignments in the class. You can always go back and take a look about what we were reading about. Now, go ahead and read through. Some of you students might also enjoy listening to that audiobook as you read. Throughout your reading, every once in a while, you're going to find these gray boxes that will have some information. Like here in chapter 1, there is a big box that talks about fishing regulations. Now, my personal strategy on that is to leave that to the end of the chapter. Sometimes they're right in the middle of a section, and so you're reading about an idea, and all of a sudden there's this box that shows up that kind of maybe disrupts the flow of your reading a little bit. These are, pretty helpful. They'll go in and kind of take a concept from the text and explain it using a real world example. But if it were me personally, I would probably wait till the end so that you can go back and read those so it doesn't kind of disrupt your rhythm of reading the textbook. These are just some of the strategies. Now, every student has to develop their own reading strategies as well. For you, maybe that's making flashcards or making notes in the margins. Find out what works best for you. Find those strategies about how to maximize your reading. That's going to help you be more successful, not only in political science, but in all of your other classes as well. And if you ever want to brainstorm about it, come see me in office hours. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. Have a great day.